it readable?
Yeah, it is. At least the hashes are not readable, but that's the
yeah, exactly. All right, let's start from the build phase, right? I'm a developer. I work for an organization. I write my code. Normally, in modern DevOps environments, how is the code deployed? The code is deployed by just making a release on Git. Very often, modern teams use online tools like GitHub and just tagging this release, right? So you push your code to your code repository. You add a tag to this code. Your build infrastructure detects that you made a tag that means like a release, and understands essentially how to build it and where to ship it. This code typically gets packaged. The last step of preparing this code to go and be run is packaging it into a container image, right? Redis, as we were saying, is a container image. Nginx is a container image. Your code, your Java code, goes into a container image, right? So the Sysdig Secure offer container image scanning functionality. Container image scanning means our tool integrates with the CI/CD pipeline of the organization and intercepts an image when it's built, but before it goes, it's deployed into production. During this phase, after the build finishes, we're able to scan the image and running it against known vulnerabilities coming from multiple sources of vulnerabilities. For example, libraries that are in versions that are known to be exploitable, or using portions of Java that have issues, or using just outdated versions of specific pieces of software. All of this is checked automatically, and it's essentially reported for you. So, for example, here we have our infrastructure, and we're able to see that, for example, there were issues with the Mongo image, and that of 30 containers, 30 container images, 10 were fine, 10 are still not scanned, and 10 have failed. I can browse these logically in my infrastructure. So typically, maybe I want to focus on a specific service, so I can pick, a specific service in my infrastructure, and I can look at the, vulnerabilities only for that part of my service. For these vulnerabilities that are detected in container images, I can do a couple of things. I can create alerts, so I will be notified. For example, I receive, a Slack message or an email immediately after somebody pushes a vulnerable version of a Node.js container in production, or something like this.
That's alerts about the services included in images.
Correct.
So, even if you have a problem with, for example, a MySQL or Mongo service,
yeah,
and the system knows which other images have the same service,
yeah,
is it possible to, because you can have a problem only on one image,
yeah,
but if you have this problem of one image, it's possible to have the same problem with the others.
That
so
is
your system can show everywhere you have the same image, the same release?
Correct, yes, and absolutely, and very often, like when you have an image which it passes maybe your vulnerability tests, when you make that release, but then a vulnerability could be discovered, right? Because maybe that image is running for like a week, and 3 days from now, somebody discovers a vulnerability, right? So Sysdig receives constantly this feed of vulnerabilities, and is able not only to block an image to go into production. So we can create a policy, for example, for our business application, which stops an image from being executed if, for example, the vulnerability is critical and there is a fix already available, right? In that case, I block it from going into production.
Image, and do you block the instances running?
And so this is pre-running, but also Sysdig is also able, if the issue is discovered after the image was in production, to tell you, okay, you have 36 of these containers running in production, and here they are, and what do you want to do? You want to block them now, or you just want to be notified, you know. So we offer you not only the ability to detect this before an image goes in production, but we keep checking your infrastructure after things are in production, because a vulnerability could arrive and could impact your infrastructure after that. And in that case, we tell you exactly which containers are in trouble, and we give you essentially a list so you can easily find them and easily, for example, stop them or restart them or upgrade them. So this is pre-production. Now your stuff is in production, right? So the first thing that is important to figure out once you're in production is, what am I running? Which seems like a simple problem, but you remember this slide. Things tend to be pretty complex, right? So just figuring out exactly what is running on every specific machine, especially when you want to be DevOps, right? So you want to give your developers the ability to start and stop their own services, right? This is great because it makes your developers very flexible and very productive, you know? But at the same time, it's a challenge. We are hearing it from many customers. It's a challenge to just know, you know, what's running on your infrastructure. So Sysdig is a functionality called Explore, which allows me essentially to go and look at what's running on any arbitrary infrastructure. So here, for example, I have an infrastructure which is made up of 6 machines, half of which are running on Google GKE, and half of which are running on Amazon AWS. And of course, you know, this is a relatively small infrastructure, but we have customers that have many thousands of machines, and in that case, essentially, you can create layers of grouping here. Here, my grouping is machine and then container. So I can pick a machine, so one of the gray squares in this box, and I expand it, and I see what's inside, you know. And let's pick, for example, this Cassandra container. And let me type Cassandra here. And I'm going to pick the Cassandra overview view for this. And as you can see, now we have deep visibility inside that specific Cassandra container. Number of write requests, read requests, latency, disk utilization, CPU, network bytes activity, heap usage, which is very important in Cassandra, handoffs. These are internal metrics for Cassandra, right? So essentially, there's a nice dashboard that allows me to pinpoint a specific container and go and granularly look inside it. If we go back and look at processes for this container, the top processes, nothing is running inside this container other than the Cassandra Java process. So there's only one process running inside this container. This is the demonstration of the container vision functionality. The Cassandra container is one of these containers, completely clean, nothing installed into it. You don't need to do any further steps as a developer or as an operation guy to see inside this container, but magically all of the data is there. This is done through our kernel instrumentation that can detect what's running inside the container by looking at the processes that are running inside it and by looking at the open ports. Detect it's Cassandra, enable monitoring for Cassandra, start collecting this data, bring it to our backend, tag it properly, and then expose it in dashboards that are easily consumable for the product. So there's a lot of effort that Sysdig puts into making all of this process completely straightforward, because that's the only way to get visibility into modern, very dynamic infrastructures. Yes?